Hello everybody and welcome back to Imp of B. I hope you're having a good week wherever you are and you're all coping whatever tier of lockdown that you're in. As you might be able to see behind me, my bongo has become a hive of activity this week because I'm really cracking on getting lots of hats knitted. And this little fella makes a good model for my hats, but actually it's part of a competition we're doing in the family. It's couples competition. We're gonna between us carve a few pumpkins and decide on a winner. I'm not really sure how we're gonna decide on a winner. I think we'll all be winners, but it's a bit of fun and it's something to do. So a little rundown of my week since I last spoke to you. I have been busy in the bongo, making it more of a comfortable space. I know I talked about that last week with the lack of space in the house. I was trying to make this more of a work area, more of an area, a sort of a lounge studio really. I did 2 days in college last week and I've got some homework to do because it's half term here now, and then we've got a reading week because we've got this Firebreak lockdown going on. I've got some assignments to do. They're the best assignments I've ever had because they're really fun. So one of them is I've got to film a trailer, and obviously can't go far with that, so it's going to be walkable within the house. So I'm going to wait for a day that's sort of hopefully a bit drier and yeah, go down to the local woods to do a little bit of filming for my trailer. And the other homework I've got to do is to watch 2 films. Like I say, I have never had such lovely homework before. We're starting to look at film techniques and camera angles, etc., and sound editing. And I'm sure that I will never look at a film the same way ever again, because I've never really, I guess none of us do, unless you're a film buff. I don't really, haven't up till now thought about camera angles and sound effects and everything, other than that it's obviously, you know when something's a sound effect, but you know it kind of gets you in the mood. But sort of you looking at sort of the way the camera is angled, so it's really, really interesting. Yeah, I'm going to indulge myself in some film watching over the next couple of weeks. And yeah, 2 weeks off college. Unfortunately, of course, in Wales, if you don't live in Wales, you probably will have heard on the news that we're in this firebreak lockdown. I think in the last diary video I said it was likely, yeah, it happened. And Richard and I were in the supermarket on Friday evening, and well, it must have been about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and 6 o'clock that day this lockdown started. So we knew that you were only going to be able to sort of shop for essentials, help vulnerable people, etc., and sort of basically stay at home again. But I hadn't realised that supermarkets weren't going to be allowed to sell what's deemed as essential goods only, because during the last lockdown the supermarkets were open. You could buy anything that they had, so you could buy all your clothes and electricals, etc. But we were in Tesco's and about 4 o'clock, and they put an announcement that from 6 p.m. they weren't allowed to sell electricals, clothes, games and Halloween costumes. I mean, we don't need to buy Halloween costumes, but I hadn't realised at that point that that was going to happen. So over the weekend it's all been in the news and social media about this crazy idea of supermarkets having to cordon off shelves. And yesterday I had to do some shopping, so we went to Lidl, and you know the middle of Lidl, I love those aisles where you've got everything from like car repair stuff to baby stuff to craft stuff, and they've turned all of the basket areas around. You can't buy anything. Went to Home Bargains, and as you know how much I love Home Bargains, you can buy anything that's edible, but not. I think they have relented now, and you can buy birthday cards, but nothing. I think stationery even. They've kind of said, okay, that might be essential. It does seem a little crazy, but at the end of the day, it is for 2 weeks. We know it's going to come to an end. I guess for anything you need, there's always online. So it hasn't really affected me. But I think for some people who really rely on local supermarkets to get, I don't know, books and things, it does seem a bit unfair that they can't buy books at the moment. But that aside, we're in a lockdown, um, stuck in the house. The weather's been pretty awful anyway. It's been a good excuse to go to ground. So I'm filming this and it's Tuesday today. And sort of, I haven't really got much news because I have been in the house. And what I have been doing is a little bit more, not baking as such, but yeah, more cooking than I would normally do. So yeah, made another sponge cake, and I made granola from, it was online, I found the recipe, I think it was the Sainsbury's magazine. I've made granola in the past and they've been variable success, but this one was absolutely gorgeous, really lovely, and you know exactly what goes in. You could adjust. I used oil, vegetable oil in mine, rapeseed oil actually, and maple syrup. But you know, if you don't want to use as much oil and syrup as the recipe suggests, you can cut that right down. I didn't. I put the full amount in and it is really lovely. But you can mix and match all the dried ingredients, and I love it with my favourite milk at the moment, which is oat milk. And that sets me up in the morning, absolutely gorgeous, and it smells lovely when it's cooking as well. So check that out. It's online, Sainsbury's magazine, and it's called Easy Granola. So that's been wonderful. And generally, because we're not able to go sort of shopping, sort of like every day, the idea is to sort of do your shopping in one go if you can. And I guess we've been trying for a little while anyway to sort of, it's easy to spend an awful lot of money on food, and I know sort of through the years I have spent an awful lot on food, mainly because I have in the past relied on a lot of luxury processed foods, ready meals, you know, lovely food that you buy in Marks and Spencer's and Waitrose and everything. And yeah, probably over the last couple of years, we've really tried to change our shopping habits. We shop mainly in Lidl or Aldi's. I do go to Tesco's as well, mainly because I pick up goods for my mother and she needs things from Tesco's. But we've been over time increasingly cooking more from scratch. And again, a lot of the food that we eat doesn't have meat in at all. And I love eating vegetarian food anyway. I also enjoy meat, but getting inventive with vegetables, rice, and sort of pasta. It's like a challenge really, is to see how far you can stretch ingredients. And I know there's a lot of people who really don't have a choice, but from my point, this is a good opportunity to sort of look at the food we're eating and be a little bit more creative with less. Regarding my knitting, I know behind me you can see some of the hats that I've been making. I started knitting hats about 3 years ago, I think it was. I learned to knit when I was a child with my grandmother, and I used to, when I was a teenager, I used to knit a lot of my own clothes and jumpers. And then, well, you have children and just never found the time. But I have, over the last couple of years, really found knitting and crochet again and really enjoying it. Now, I don't have the patience to knit clothes and jumpers or anything too difficult, to be honest with you. I like easy and straightforward, and I've discovered making hats. I love hats. I love wearing, you've probably seen me in various videos wearing different hats. And people who saw the hats wanted me to make them for them as well. So I end up in the autumn making hats for people who want them. And I've got a little online store, which I might talk about in a future episode, and via Instagram. I've got a different account on Instagram, but I'll probably talk about that in another episode. But So essentially I have been busy knitting. I've always got 1 or 2 hats on the go, some with pom-poms and some without. And so yeah, I can't really see that I'm going to get bored over these 2 weeks fire break. So it's a bit of a cottage industry. I can only go as fast as I can knit, so my output is fairly slow. Takes about probably, well, if I really go at it, I can knit a hat in a day and a half, and then I put all the finishing touches. So it's probably 2 to 3 days per hat. So I'm never going to make a fortune doing this, clearly, but it's something I enjoy, and it's quite satisfying making something from scratch that people enjoy wearing. And I love the feedback from people who wear the hats. So yeah, I've enjoyed that. So as for the bongo this week, I have been making it a different layout for compared to camping. So I've got it back as I did during the last lockdown, I think. I've been emptying the cupboards again. So the top cupboard where I used to keep all my bedding and clothes, I've now got my wool supply in there. I think Richard's very relieved about that because it was starting to take over the house. So yeah, my wool is safely nestled in there. And where the camping chairs and table used to be, I've got a lovely bit of storage there under this pull-out bed. So under there I put, well, at the moment I've got my window blinds because they're in a little container, but they are quite bulky. So that's in there and my sleeping bag. But there's plenty more room there for more craft gear. And the seating arrangement I've got at the moment, I've got my table set up at the rear. So I've got sort of what I call the L-shape conversion. So I can sit across the back of the van, I can sit on the side bed, or I can sit on the front seat. So there's plenty of room, or if people are in here with me, we can sort of move around. I can do knitting in here. Now I can do work on my laptop and editing, and just generally fiddle around. And I've put the blinds up mainly because just a bit of privacy really. With the darker days now, as soon as the light goes, I'm illuminated in the van. Although it's got tinted glass, you can still see in. So, and it does keep the heat in. And talking of heat, next week I'm going to do the video on my new diesel heater. It's been a little bit cooler and I have been in the van more this week doing knitting, so I have had the heater on a couple of times and I am very impressed with how quickly it gets warm in here. In fact, too warm. So it's got a thermostat on so you can adjust the temperature, so I'm kind of getting to grips with all of that. There's various timers on it, so you can have it coming on maybe in the morning, but it's like a central heating boiler in the house, you know, and especially with the clocks go forward and back. I really haven't spent much time looking at that, but I will do that for the video next week. I'll talk about the choice I made for the diesel heater, and I'll show you bits and pieces where it's all fitted, etc. So bear with me, it is coming, but just as a teaser, it's brilliant. It's changed my life. I wouldn't be in here now, or I might be, but I would be bundled up with hats and coats, etc. The heating is off at the moment, but it was on for about half an hour before I started filming, and it's toasty warm in here now. And I must admit, even if I don't have the heater on, because the sun comes around this side of the van, even on a winter's day when the sun comes in, particularly with a high top, because you've got those windows up the top, it's surprising how warm the van does get, even in the winter when you've got a lovely sunny day. Soon as the sun goes down, of course, it does lose heat really quickly. So yeah, so I think that's pretty much my update for this week. As I say, I will get on to the heating video for you, ready for next week's video, so do tune into that. Please hit the notifications if you want to be notified every time I bring a video out. It's every week. It's Thursday, 2 o'clock. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing. I'm looking to get my subscriber count up. My ambition is to get to 1,000 subscribers. I think we're on 340 something at the moment, which is absolutely amazing. And it's going to take time, clearly, to get to 1,000. But yeah, that is my ambition. Really do want to hit that number. So if you can help me do that, that would be utterly amazing. But meanwhile, have a very wonderful Halloween. We're going back to how we used to do Halloween in the 70s. We didn't have pumpkins then, we carved Swedes. But the simple pleasures, no one's going out this year, so it's staying in the house as we used to. Homemade Halloween costumes with bin bags and ducking apples, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I'm quite looking forward to it. So have a lovely Halloween weekend, and I'll see you next week. Take care, everyone.